but have you ever considered doing anything more than just having anything in the world you want shipped to you, like overnight, same day, 2 day, prime this? I mean, now you can even get food delivered to you. There's so much. And I remember when it first started out just as a book store, basically. Like, who's going to buy books? Who even wants to read books? And now everything under the sun is on it. And I'm so excited to have Dan Metters today because he is a true e commerce success story. I was making light of it. They have everything under the sun now, but just think about the transformation in the last few years, let alone the last 20. He saw an opportunity early on, and I'm not going to spoil it right now. Well, it's not going to be spoiling it. I mean, I want to share it with you, but I'll let him say it. That's what I should be saying. He is a true success story. He's built a multi-million-dollar company. He's an author, speaker, trainer. He's going to be sharing with you how this all came to be. And the first thing I'm going to ask him, because I want to know the backstory. So he's going to be sharing it with you. And I'm excited to have Dan Metters up right after we thank our sponsor. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dan Metters. Dan, I am so excited to have you here. How are you feeling today?
Fantastic, brother, man. Thanks for having me on. Seriously.
I'm it's my pleasure and I'm excited to learn myself as well as expert authority world. Share the idea. Tell us literally how you started this because I know you have a successful multi-million-dollar company now and you have the wholesale formula and all these great things and you can help people do what you've done. But take me back to how it started because I find this fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We got started in 2011. It's kind of funny because you'd mentioned that um, Amazon. You knew of Amazon as a bookstore, right? And it was kind of like the same thing for me, where I didn't know that people sold stuff on Amazon. I had no idea. And then one day, one of our buddies came into work, and this guy, he had a 6 figure job here in Kentucky, and it's kind of funny because like we live in Corbin, Kentucky, which is like a super small town. There's more cows than there are people, I'm pretty sure. So this guy comes in and he's telling us about selling products on Amazon, and I was honestly flabbergasted. It's like, I thought they sold books, man. And he was like, no, everything on Amazon. So it was really cool. And then, like a few weeks later, he comes in and he gives his notice, and he had again, a 6 figure salary, and the guy's giving his notice, and he was like, honestly, man, I just make more sitting at home selling stuff on Amazon part time, and uh, I was like, so can you show me a little bit about this, like what you're doing and how you're selling stuff? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Because in college, like I had an eBay store, but the problem for me was it just took so much time to run it, right? Like you have to have a real amount of infrastructure. Like I had a I think in college I was probably doing 6 figures on eBay selling video games, and it was just the amount of time that went into packing orders, answering customer questions, like all that stuff was just a nightmare. So Andrew, he said, that it was a much better system than eBay, which was really cool. And he goes out. I remember the very first thing is he took us out to this store, out to a Walmart, and he like scans this item with his phone, and he's like, this item was $3 on the shelf, Mario. It was $3. And then he brings it up on his phone. It's like $15.87. And he was like, this is the kind of item I buy, man. Like I go around, I look for these items that are way cheaper in store than you can buy them online. And I was thinking, there's literally nobody on earth that will buy this thing for $15. Like there's nobody. So me and my buddy Eric were talking about it, and I was like, let's just give this thing a shot, man. Let's see how many of these stupid Disney cars guys we can find. So like we went out, we looked at a couple of the local Walmarts and found like 20 or 30 of these guys. And I was honestly so skeptical. Like I really did just feel like I was throwing $50 in the trash, like just throwing it in the trash because there's no way people are going to be buying these things, right? And we take them home, we set up our Amazon account, we send them in, and within the first hour of them getting to the Amazon fulfillment center, like we had orders going out, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is unbelievable. So from that point, like we spent literally every waking hour that we weren't at work or dealing with our families, looking for profitable products to sell on Amazon, because like it corrected a lot of those same problems that I had from eBay. Like I didn't have to pack and ship my orders. I was able to send everything into the Amazon warehouse. They dealt with the vast majority of customer service. So like it just let me kind of almost run like a passive business, except it wasn't passive because I was going and hunting inventory at the time. But as far as the sales aspect, it was passive, right? Like I didn't have to do all the things that I hated. I love buying stuff. And I think most people are like that. Like it's the thrill of the hunt that like gets you in there. So I'm kind of fast forward. This was in June or July of 2011. In December of 2011, I actually got fired from my job. And it was I mean, honestly, it was a catastrophe. I had a brand new baby girl. Um, we had had a lot of problems. Like I had to replace the roof on my house. I'd had to replace my HVAC, and like my savings was just like I just depleted. I didn't have anything. Um, so in December, that was like I remember when that happened. Like I'm sure a lot of people kind of went through something just absolutely crushing. Like I went back to this little 250 square foot office that we'd rented to like keep the stuff that we were buying in, because like my wife would gripe when I would bring it home. It's just a big giant mountain of stuff, like toys and all kinds of crazy stuff, that whatever was profitable, honestly. Like we didn't discriminate against the products we were buying. We would just buy whatever it took. So uh, I went to that office and I cried. Like I sat there and cried, and I was thinking, like, what am I going to tell my wife? Like, so I decided I was not going to tell her. This was a terrible idea at the time, but I decided I wasn't going to tell her that I got fired, and I was going to tell her I was like really excited, motivated about this Amazon thing, because I didn't want her to worry, and I'd quit my job. And so I go home. I was like, I had the stone face on, like completely serious, like not not acting like I was worried. Like I was terrified. I was literally terrified. But I told her, I was like, yeah, like we've been doing so well on Amazon, and particularly this past month. Like I just turned in my notice today, and like I just want to go full time and do it and see how well I can do. And she was like, you should stop this immediately and go back and get your job again. Like now you have a family to support. And little did she know that wasn't an option. Like I didn't have the opportunity to get my job back. Um, so I stayed the course, and ultimately Eric came over and joined me full time at about 30 days later, and that's kind of where our business really kicked off. So we were going out shopping, just like the business model is called retail arbitrage, and that's just finding things in stores that you can sell online at a higher price. So we would go to all these stores, and honestly, we didn't have the budget to do wholesale. We didn't have the budget to do um, private label or one of the more passive models. Like we had to literally grow our business with blood, sweat, and tears. So for the next 2 years, we were out in stores shopping all the time. And I remember like this, there was one time like specifically that sticks out to me, and where I had to change. Right, it's just like um, whenever you just know that something's wrong, and it's never going to get better. And we were like Black Friday for us in retail arbitrage was like the holy grail of shopping, because there's discounts everywhere. Like you can, that's whenever you can get the best buys. And like if you're willing to stock up on inventory and hold it for 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, like you can see some massive profits from the stuff you buy on Black Friday. But this was the second year in a row that I had to get up and leave my kids on Thanksgiving, because here like Black Friday really starts on Thursday. Like it really starts on Thanksgiving.
Thursday,
So
it feels like Monday sometimes.
sometimes, right? Like it's crazy how like it seems like every season they push it back a few hours. And I remember
I
my
used to
little
work at
girl.
Best Buy.
Oh, then you've experienced the madness. Like you've
Well, I told
experienced
them
it.
I'm not working it. They're like, "Well, you could get fired." I'm like, "Fine, I'm not coming in."
Do it. Fire me. But so I remember getting up, and my daughter was like, "Dad, where are you going?" And it's like, I got to go work. And she was like, "Really? You can't stay and eat with us?" And I was like, gosh, it was just crushing. And we were the entire time we were out, like the year before, we were super excited, super pumped, like yes, 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 just go buy, buy, buy. And all I could think about was getting up and leaving the table, and leaving my kids there, and not being able to spend the holidays with them. And I was talking to Eric, and I was like, man, I just don't know if I can do this again. Like honestly, this is brutal. Um, And that was kind of the point where we really started trying to find an alternative business model, find something that fit the lifestyle that we wanted. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs get caught, right? Like it gets easy to get comfortable because we were making great money at the time. Like, we were probably we'd done about $940,000 in sales that year, and our margins were probably like we were probably had a net profit of about 250 or $300,000. Like, it's healthy margins for us. And uh, but it wasn't sustainable. Like, I wasn't able to spend time with my kids. I wasn't able to do all those things that people, whenever you ask somebody, why are you going to get in, what, like, why are you getting into business, or, why are you an entrepreneur, or whatever. Nobody ever says, so I can just make piles of money to stack on top of each other. Like, they literally say, because of the freedom, because it gives me more time to spend with my kids. It gives me more time to travel, or something, right? They have their thing. And for us, making money wasn't our thing. It wasn't what we wanted in a business. So we tried some things from there. Like, we opened a physical brick and mortar store. Remember when I told you that I'm pretty sure we have more people than, or more cows than people? Well, obviously the retail store didn't do so well. Like, it's not in what you would call a high traffic area. So our retail store ultimately failed. Then we tried. The next thing we tried was a My Little Pony website. And this was because we had watched the documentary about bronies. I don't know if you know what a brony is. Maybe you are a brony, Mario.
What is a
But
brony?
a brony is a grown person that still enjoys and collects My Little Pony stuff,
I am
particularly
not.
mostly men. Okay, well, good
I
to
am
know.
not.
But there's a
But I
popular
am
segment
familiar
in the
with My
world.
Little Pony, so when you said it, I was like, well, that's interesting. I knew Beanie Babies were a thing and pet rocks
Sure.
and all that, but, people like to collect just whatever.
Yeah, and it was crazy. Like, whenever we were selling, going around in stores and stuff, like, one of the most popular items we would always find was things related to My Little Pony. Like, you could find like a little tiny toy, right? And it would be $50 on Amazon.
Because it's
And
limited edition collectors, whatever, with the Sparkle Days.
exactly. So, whenever we created the My Little Pony website, like, that was kind of the logic, is there's no one serving that niche. We felt like we had the product expertise to be able to do it. And ultimately we created a website and started driving traffic to it. And the website didn't do too bad. It just wasn't our thing. Again, it's not, it was something I couldn't get passionate about. And we ended up selling that. And then we started private label next. I don't know if you know what private label is, but that's creating your own version of a product and then selling it retail. We actually launched a really successful private label product whenever we were first starting out. Like, one of them that generated about $200,000 in profit in the first 3 months of its existence, but it was unsustainable. Like, again, we didn't have the skills to replicate the process was our problem. It's like we found a great product, but we didn't have the marketing skills to be able to do it. Like, I wasn't good enough with ads. I wasn't good enough with all those things to be able to make to be able to consistently make good products. So ultimately that kind of failed for us. And then we fell into wholesale, which is where we're at now. And it was a rocky start there too. I mean, honestly, nothing has ever just came easy to us. Like, it's all, it's we've always had to fight and claw and try to learn and learn through hardship. And I think that's a lot of things that entrepreneurs struggle with, right? Is like, particularly early entrepreneurs, is they expect that everything's just going to be easy, and it never is. Like, it really never is. Um, so when we got started with wholesale, and for those of you guys who don't know what wholesale is, it is buying products from in a business to business fashion. So buying products directly from a manufacturer or wholesaler, and then selling those products at a markup, retail. And that's what our model is. So now what we do is we find brands that we can work with and carry their products profitably, and send and then ultimately sell those products on Amazon. Um,
I like what you're doing because there's so many people that they have great skill sets. They're super creative. They're the most artistic. They have, I mean, even if it's not a traditional art, I'm not talking drawings, but
sure.
you might be a roofer, a carpenter. You might know how to do nails, detail cars. You're really good at what you do, but the business side eludes so many, along with, even if they have somewhat of an inkling for the business, most hate the sales and marketing. And I've always loved it because, I mean, shoot, they sold a pet rock. If
It's
you can,
true.
it's like you can have the greatest thing in the world, But the other side of it is the finances. Most people never look at their profit margins. And I love that you've been sharing it this whole time because products are so cut and dry. When you were talking about buying it for $3 and selling it at 15, that is a that's a $12 profit. I don't know the
That one was
exact math, but that is a pretty high profit margin also.
sure.
And I never did the Amazon thing, but there was many times in high school and college I actually got in trouble with the principal because do you remember Blockbuster?
Oh yeah.
Blockbuster was a fun little thing because everyone would give you gift cards for all the holidays, and they had the bin for $3, $4, $3 movies when the rentals were 4 and 5. And I was like, why am I going to pay more for a rental than the actual movie? And then I'd resell them.
So you were doing the Blockbuster hustle.
Absolutely. And the other thing was in college, I paid for some of my courses by looking at the price of the books, finding the delta with it, and going, okay, it's a $75 book. It's 65 on sale at the bookstore across the street, and it was $12 on Amazon. So I looked at the kids in class, realized I'm not going to sell everyone, took about 50, 60%, invested in those, and I was making what, $12 and selling them. I think I sold them half price for like 30 or 35, and I was still making over 100% profit on it. It's
Sure.
so
No,
simple to
absolutely.
just go product A is 10, product B is 20 or 30. It's so simple and it's very profitable.
Sure. And that's ultimately, whenever that's I think you have to have margin. Like you have to be conscious about your margin to grow your business. Like if you're not thinking about margin, if you're not trying to generate real profit, like you will struggle. And that's one thing that luckily we've always had pretty healthy margins, and it's kind of given us more room to operate with and learn and grow, learn with our business. Um, but when we got started, I mean, honestly, when we got started with wholesale, it wasn't sunshine and rainbows. Like we, I can remember a couple of times, like specifically, that were just nightmares, like just actual nightmares. Like the very first time, we did what everybody else did, and I think that's kind of how everybody finds a business, right? It's like you just Google around and you just try to learn what you can, and you try to apply some stuff, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, and you learn from it. And that's what we did. We didn't really know how to do wholesale. Like I Googled how to find wholesalers. And then like I would find these directories and I would contact all these people and they would send me back these humongous catalogs full of junk. And then I would sit there and painstakingly line by line just type in stuff and be like, oh, that one's no good. That one's no good. That one's no good. And this was hours and hours, Mario, like just unbelievable the amount of hours that you'll spend doing something like this to find one item where, you're making almost nothing. And it was just unbelievable. And then it was like, maybe we need to go to shows. That was our next thing, is maybe we should just go to shows. And that was we went to ASD, one of the world's largest events for uh, wholesale. And we went through the event hall. We connected with a few vendors, but ultimately didn't find anything. Right? It's like, and then I remember on day two, we went back to the hotel that night. And it's like, we can't just come out here and spend thousands of dollars to come to the event and not buy anything. Like we have to pull the trigger on something. So ultimately, that was when you start thinking about it, trying to force yourself into an action, like that can't end well, right? Like this is it can't end well. So we go out, we find products, we ended up spending thousands and thousands of dollars, and then by the time the product gets to us, it's just it's worth less than we paid. Like we're in the red before we've even sold an item, and I was just dejected. Just like everything has failed for us. The only way we can make money is literally by grinding ourselves into the dirt, just by working and working and working, driving to these stores. Nothing else seems to work. And I remember looking at Eric, and I picked up a product on my desk, and I was like, why can't I just buy this product? Like, why do I have to go through all these crappy catalogs? Why do I have to run around this event hall? Why can't I just call this company and buy this one product? Like, and Eric's like, shoot, let's try it. Like, we can try. So I called the company. I called them and I was like, hey, I would love to know which distributor carries your items. I'm a retailer. I'd love to set up an account with you guys. And they're like, well, I mean, I can tell you which distributors sell our product, or you can set up an account directly with us, and you're more than welcome to buy products from us. And I was like, what? Like I can just buy product from you guys? And yeah, and they said, here's our wholesale rates. Here's um, our discount schedule. If you order this much, you get a discount or whatever. And the products were just good. Like I didn't have to fight. I didn't have to negotiate. Like the prices on the sheet made sense. And I was like, holy crap. Like it's really this easy. You just call up and they'll sell it to you. Like, and bear in mind that I had done hundreds of hours of research, hundreds, and not one person had said, call the company. Not one. Everybody had their cockamamie go to this distributor, look through their 1,000 lines of stuff, go through this place. And it was that simple. It
Simple
was
always wins, and sometimes it's so simple we just don't believe it. Have
right.
you
I mean,
ever gone full circle with the eBay and used eBay as a source also?
oh yes. Many, many times, my friend. Oh yeah, we've definitely bought. I've actually sourced products from Amazon to sell on Amazon, like within the same market, just where they had a discount. And I knew it was good. I bought it. Comes in, Amazon sold out, then sell the product for a higher price. That we've done that hundreds and hundreds of times. Like you're so yeah, absolutely. But you're right, man. Like simple is what wins, right? And then that day I was like, oh my gosh, I just got to call more companies. Like that's it. Now we're going to be rich. I figured out how to do it. We're just going to call more companies, and by the end of the month we will be retired in the Cayman Islands. Like that was how I thought. It's like this is going to be easy. So spoiler alert, it wasn't easy. Like while it worked out that first time really good, it wasn't that easy to replicate. Like we would call these brands and they would say, yeah, man, we already have enough Amazon sellers. We're not looking for any other representation on Amazon. And it was like, what? Like they don't want me to buy their products? Like I'm literally trying to hand them money and they're saying no. But at the time it was frustrating. But ultimately they were making the right decision. They didn't need more Amazon sellers. They just needed better Amazon sellers. So it was call after call where I'm just getting that answer. No, 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 no. And I remember there was this one product I actually used it. And I love the product. And I call that brand and I was like, I'd send them an email. They told me they had responded with, we're not accepting any other Amazon sellers. And I was like, well, maybe I can make a difference with this brand. Like I know them. Like I know the product. I can give a lot of feedback here into their Amazon listing. So I call and I get the national sales manager on the phone. His name was Bob, and I still remember the conversation. Bear in mind, this was like 3 or 4 years ago, and I can still remember it because it was so jarring and it awkward at first, and then it transitioned into an awesome partnership. So, but when I called, I was like, hey, I'd reached out to you guys via email, and you said you weren't looking for any other Amazon sellers, and he was like, yeah, and I meant it, man. Like, and I was like, wow, this is. What do you say to that?
Thanks for
Like,
sugarcoating it even a little.
yeah, thanks for making me feel good about it. And I was like, no, I definitely get it, man. Like, I'm sure you probably get these calls all the time. And he was like, every single day, I have some guy trying to call me, trying to carry my product. And he was like, I already have, I have E-Tails carrying my product. I have River Colony Trading. And those are two of the biggest third-party Amazon sellers in the marketplace. And I was like, no, man, that's awesome. Like, those guys do a fantastic job, and I'm sure in most ways you're probably super well served. But like, here's the problems. Like, for what it's worth, I actually use your product. Like, I understand your product. I use it every single day. It was a supplement, and I was like, so when I go to your listing, it doesn't reflect like the quality of your product at all. Like, your title's not very good. Your pictures aren't very good. Like all of these things. And I was like, if you just want to humor me for just a minute. Like, can you go to your Amazon page and check it out with me? And he's like, yeah, sure. So he goes and he looks at his page, and bear in mind, when he sees it, there's nothing wrong, right? Because he doesn't know what he's looking at. It's just a product page on Amazon. And I was like, all right, can you go to the search bar and type in like this word? And he was like, yeah, that's one of our competitors. I was like, yeah, check out their page. So he goes to their page and he sees that they have amazing pictures. They have a full title, full description. Like, it's really vibrant, and they're outselling them. And I was like, so let me guess. In the real world, that you outsell this brand probably 10-1, right? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, why are they beating you on Amazon? Like, how are they beating you on Amazon? And I was like, the difference is they have one person who really cares about their product, and they're making sure to handle all the sponsored ads. It's completely optimized. They have great pictures, literally everything, because it matters to them. And I was like, your sellers are amazing. They're probably the biggest and best sellers in the whole marketplace, but you're just a number to them, man. Like you're just another account. Your account 337 or 1,000. Like to me, I don't have any accounts. Like you're my most important person. You're the most important person in the whole wide world to me. And I'll make sure that every single thing like this gets done if you'll work with me one time. That's all you have to do. One time I don't do it, never talk to me again. But if it does work out, I think you'll want to work with me going forward, man. And he was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. Like, I would love to work with you. And that's ultimately how we got started into our real current model, because our current model isn't just calling a distributor and saying, hey, man, I'd like to place an order. We develop real partnerships with brands where we offer them more than just our checkbook. Like I offer them my Amazon expertise. I try to get their brand optimized so they can grow and make a difference in the world. And that's ultimately how we acquire customers now, is through value rather than just trying to place a big giant order.
And that's a great way for client acquisition, is always adding the value. Excuse me. And I wanted to ask you, what's the biggest transformation you've been able to give someone, whether it's someone you're helping as far as a client or someone you're helping replicate this? That was a pretty impressive story. Is that your biggest transformational story?
Oh, I mean, as far as like we've seen within our community, we've seen just crazy transformations. Not just like on every side. Like I've worked with vendors. It was funny. Like one of the vendors that um, we work really closely with now. I remember he was trying to transition his brand online, and it was really hard for him because he's a really passionate person. He's a really nice guy, and he had a lot of friends that were carrying his product that really weren't serving it, but they were his friends. Like he legitimately knew them from within the industry. And I remember having to walk him through that process of starting to fine tune his sellers to make sure that they're actually working for him. Starting to optimize his brand presence so he can grow. And it at times it felt like he was cutting off his children, like, you know what I mean, as he was cutting these sellers that weren't performing. And it was like 2 months into this process, whenever we had got everything smoothed out and we had started that optimization process, and you start to see sales creeping up. And I remember he called our team and he was like, guys, you know what? This has been probably one of the hardest things I've had to go through, like emotionally, because I've always been really invested in my brand. I've always been really invested in the people that sell it. And this has just been a tough experience for me, but I couldn't have done it without you guys. And he's like, I just wanted to tell you guys, I love you guys. And just seeing, just understanding that we made a difference for him was huge. Um, Similarly, within our community, I mean, we've had so many crazy success stories. Like I remember, one that pops to mind immediately, Cheryl Brightman. And Cheryl is she's one of our TWF alumni that went through our course. And I'll be honest, like she didn't have success when she first started. Like it was tough for her. Like she would call and she would not be able to convert on brands. And one time we went out to dinner, and it was when we went out to Vegas to go to ASD, and we had a bunch of people that had taken our course that had been there. And this was the second time we went to ASD. And bear in mind, I didn't even go in the show this time. Like I didn't even go in. Like I literally went out, hung out with people, talked to people, and went to dinners and cool stuff like that. But I didn't go for the show because it's not really my cup of tea. Um, but whenever we went out to dinner with Cheryl, I was talking to her and I was like, Cheryl, it's not your technical knowledge. Like it's not things you don't know, because that was what she was worried about. Right. It's like, it's hard for me to connect with these vendors because I'm worried that I can't live up to their expectations. And I was like, you have to give yourself the opportunity to live up to the expectation. Like you never will if you don't try it. Like you just have to take action. You have to move forward and be willing to make a mistake. Like that's what we do, is we learn from mistakes. Be transparent that this is not this is not an easy process. Like this is something where and that's what we do with our vendors, is we don't hide things. We don't try to make it sound like it's completely easy. Like we talk to them about the nuts and bolts of what the changes we have to make, and what they can expect. And I was like, as long as you do that, and you develop a partnership the right way, people will work with you. And she went back, and I didn't. It was kind of crazy because I didn't really know much about her situation at the time. And so we were speaking at an event a few months later, and Cheryl was there, and she came up and she was crying and she gave me a big hug. And she was like, I just want you to know the difference you made in my life. Like, um, she said, whenever I saw you guys in Vegas, like I was at my wit's end. Like I had, she had moved back in with her mother. She had been laid off from her job. Like she had to go. She said, you know, for the first time in 20 years, she was out looking for a job, like trying to pay just to pay her bills, so she wouldn't go bankrupt. And uh, she said, you know, it wasn't easy for me. Like I didn't just get it, but once I went through that process, once I decided I could try my best to offer that value, and no matter what, I would get it done. That's what she resolved herself to do. Is I don't care if I know how to do it, I will get it done no matter what. And she did it. She picked up an account. That account, she still works with that company today. That account generates her about $300,000 a year in profit. Like literally saved her business. Well, almost well, effectively created her business, and it really kind of saved her life from where it was headed. That one was a huge one. We had Emmerich. Emmerich's another one. Like this guy um, moved to the U.S. in 2011. Didn't speak any English. Took our course in 2014, and was able to grow and scale a business. Like bear in mind, this guy didn't speak English. Like he barely spoke English whenever he was taking our course. And he, you know, he grew a business. He sold that business within 18 months, and now I'm actually proud to say we've hired him. Like you know, he's a CFO in our current business, um, and has grown several other businesses beyond that. Like it's just the transformation with him was he went from never having owned a business ever, being an immigrant that certainly ESL, and created a business, scaled, grew it, sold it, and has went on to grow other businesses. Like that's amazing. And it's kind of crazy because I remember talking to him then, and just the things that we talk about then versus how we think about business now is just it's worlds apart, right? Like the growth he's had. Amy Sherlock was another one. Gosh, her story is incredible. She had just one of the she had a really rough home situation. Like she had declared bankruptcy, had started foreclosing like on her home, was moving back in with her parents, and um, she went through our course, and she was her story was just so good because like she had trouble getting pregnant, like lots and lots of trouble. Like she was passionate about being a mother, and had lots of trouble conceiving, and had went so far as to get a degree in fertility, like in her own studies to try to learn how. And eventually she did. And then right after that's when everything in her life fell apart. So she was a brand new mom with nothing. And she went through our course, and ultimately that was her thing. Is she, you know, one of the things she felt like she could serve in the Amazon marketplace were people selling fertility based products. She understood them, right? So she made an immediate connection with those brands. Like she would go out, she would talk to those brands because she could help them grow their presence on Amazon. She knew everything about fertility because she had to study it for years and years and years. And uh, since that point, like, you know, in the past 3 years, she's created a business that does I'm pretty sure she's doing over $250,000 a month now in sales. Like it's just, you know, and it's from the power of creating partnerships. It's why do these companies work with her? Is it because she was the best, the foremost expert on Amazon? No, it's because she was willing to actually help them. She knew their products, and she wanted to make a difference. And that's what it really takes. It's just people wanting to take proactive measures to make the world or wherever they're at a better place. And that's, you know, ultimately I think partnership stems or business stems from partnership.
I tell my clients that, excuse me, I tell my clients that and authors, they go, well, what if they don't see me as the expert? What if they don't? It's like they have all the proof in the world, but when it comes to doing their book or a video, there's that imposter syndrome or whatever. I
Yep.
go, all you have to do is demonstrate it. You don't need to say anything crazy. You don't need to be anything crazy. You just need to demonstrate it. And it sounds like she definitely did that. And now you said she's doing $250,000 a month.
Yeah. No, I mean,
What people are looking for, they're looking to add value. You
they're
know,
not looking for authority. They're looking for value. Yeah.
when you're talking to these people in your community and you've talked about speaking, when you're addressing the audience, how good does that feel when you can help however many people are in the room?
It's obviously amazing for sure.
What made you want to start your course? Because you could have been totally fine just doing your thing and not helping anyone else and profiting yourself. What made you want to start the training?
It's actually kind of an interesting story, and I think it comes almost from a something. A business is like one of the guys that I know. He's a digital marketer. He's based here in Corbin, and it's funny. We play a game called Magic the Gathering, and one day he was over at our warehouse and just to play games, and he was walking around the operation, and he was like, "Hey man, like you should make a course about how to do this." And I was like, there is literally nobody in the world that wants to know how to sell products on Amazon. Like, there's just no way.
Same way no
And
one would buy it for 15 bucks.
exactly. It's, and this is where I was closed minded. And he was like, no, 100%, man. Like, this is super cool operation. It's super cool what you guys do. You should do it. And then I read a book called Launch because I'd never thought about it. I'd never ever considered selling a course. Didn't have any interest in it. And but he kind of opened my eyes to it a little bit. So I went out and I researched and I read a book called Launch by Jeff Walker. And um, so we followed through the book, and ultimately I got really excited reading it. I was like, wow, this is super cool, and maybe we could make something that somebody would buy. And I remember, like, I went through, I wrote the course. One of my partners, Dylan, was like, hey, put this up, and then let's try to launch it using whatever this book says. So we did exactly what Jeff Walker's book said, and we did our first launch. And I remember we didn't even have a payment processor. We had to go partner with somebody who had a payment processor. So they could receive our payments. We didn't have a mailing list. We didn't have anything. Like, we actually didn't have a client, like not a single one. But we had talked to a couple of people in the space and told them our story, let them review our content, and it was really cool. Our content was a cut above because we were actually doing the stuff that we were teaching. It wasn't just theory based or anything like that. It was real life in the trenches content that helped people understand how to put a business together logically using our model. And we got promoted by a couple of people in the space. And that first launch, I remember we were sitting there at Eric's house whenever we getting ready to turn the cart on where we could take our first order. And we had decided that we were going to drink a bottle of champagne if we sold one course, and we were going to drink a bottle of expensive champagne if we sold 5 courses.
How many
Uh,
how many did you sell?
Well, so we turn it on and the website crashes, like immediately crashed. And I was like, oh my God, we're doomed. But ultimately it went crazy successful. Like, I think we sold like 130 courses that first time. And
So
it
what'd you do
was,
for the wine there?
oh, we we drunk both bottles. We had a blast. And, it was a fantastic time, but it was fantastic and scary, right? Because, like, once you've sold it, now you actually have to serve the people. Like, and it's a different level of responsibility, in my opinion. Like, once I have a paying customer, it's my job to help them actually create a business or reach their desired outcome, right? So over the next few months, that was our entire focus, was literally just working with our community. And but it was crazy because, like, now we're talking to all these awesome people all the time, right? And it's just feedback for our business because they're encountering situations that we've not seen. They ask us about it, and that, like, kind of broadens our horizons. So it ultimately helped our business grow as well. Like, that year we went from, in our Amazon business, we went from 3.6 to over 7 million in sales. And it was because, like, instead of having, a 3 or 4 man little beta team, like, is our little internal team, we now had hundreds of people that we could talk to about problems and come up with ideas and solutions. And it didn't just help grow their business, but it helped grow our entire, like, everything. And that's ultimately what really has sold me on the whole idea of how valuable partnerships can be, is I've seen it work time and time again, and the impact that it can actually have on a business.
Well, I'm glad you did come up with the course because I'm familiar with the marketing world and I've read the book also. It's awesome. Jeff is awesome. But a lot of people, again, they don't realize how much they can really help just with their information and knowledge. The story you were telling about the your new partner, your new client, for just telling him to tweak the title, description, headlines, the thumbnails, the pictures, all of that plays a role. And, nowadays your business is online. If you have bad images and text, that's all it is. The whole internet is nothing more than images, video, and text.
You're
And
exactly right.
so many people, oh, well, it's not a big deal. No, it's everything. So I'm glad you touched upon that. I got one last question for you before we go to the imperfect action round, and it's a little bit more of a, I don't know, I don't want to say a fun one because I love business and I think this is fun, but it's a
Sure.
not necessarily business, but if you answer that way, totally fine. Who is someone you would love to have lunch or dinner with, just meet, that you haven't been able to yet?
I think Jeff Bezos, not close. And it's just his ability to understand how to grow a business, in my opinion, is unparalleled. And it's if you look at the principles, there's so many things that documentation out about Amazon now. Like if you read their book, the Amazon way, like that is the principles that they use to guide their decisions. It's kind of like their creed. And it's very aggressive. Like it's one of those things. They create an aggressive environment, but it's to promote new thought. That's their whole thing, is they love to create, and Amazon is famous for that. They're famous for being loving failure. Like that's one of the things that Jeff Bezos always talks about, is how often Amazon fails into the magnitude they fail. Like if you look at the Fire Phone was a disaster, but they still did it. Like they just do and do and do, and then when things stick, they're able to run wild with it. But they're just not afraid to fail, and they keep their business incredibly lean and agile in an otherwise just fat and bloated marketplace. Like if you look at your traditional retailers, why does Amazon destroy them? Why is Amazon growing so much faster than they are? And it's because Amazon's more agile and they move quicker. They bring more ideas to market. So it would absolutely not close be Jeff Bezos. Like I'm just fascinated by how the guy thinks, how he runs his operation, and how they continue to just be a market leader.
It is a great answer. I think he's fascinating also. And again, what I was hearing is touching on that profit margin.
Yeah.
It's hard to be creative and be like you're talking about the failure. Why are you going to be afraid of failure if you know you're just going to crank out 9 other things, and when one of them does stick, Richard Branson is one that comes to mind. I'd love to meet him. And there's this diagram I saw one time of all the businesses he's done. And there's, of course, dozens we know about, but there's dozens and dozens and dozens we don't necessarily know about. I was like, holy smokes. And it's like 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5. They're not all good, but when you're doing
It's
10 every 5 years.
It's crazy. Like, I actually had the pleasure of listening to Richard speak once, and he was talking about his failures. And you'd mentioned it right there that like, yeah, there's an absurd amount of them. Like the amount and magnitude to which he has failed is unbelievable. Like I remember one story specifically about whenever he said he was launching Virgin Cola in the United States. Now, probably most people listening to this podcast probably have no idea what Virgin Cola is, and there's a reason for that. And he said it was doing incredibly well in the UK. He had positioned it well to come over to the US, but he wanted to make like a big spectacle out of it, right? So he put a big display in Times Square, like a Pepsi display, and had a Virgin tank run over it. And like apparently the guys, this per his story, like apparently the guys at Pepsi were not happy with this, Pepsi and Coke and the other manufacturers. And then they went and worked in the UK to get them to remove Virgin Cola from the shelves. They bought more shelf space to take Virgin Cola out of the UK, and ultimately ended. Yeah. So it was just, but it's crazy stuff like that. It's like, the guy, he just does awesome stuff all the time, and some of them works. But the vast majority actually fail. If you listen to his stories, the vast majority of his business ventures fail. It's just the ones that are successful are something that he can continue to grow and scale and be passionate with.
I never even knew about the cola one, but
it's crazy.
That's why I tell people, like with list building, always have your own email list, because whether Facebook is around, Instagram, LinkedIn, any of them, You go, oh, they'll always be around. Yeah, but in what capacity? Maybe they won't disappear like MySpace, but it's not them that dictate it. It's the users. If the users get sick of one or the other, they jump to the next one.
And
And
that's
this,
you know,
it's the same thing like with the cola.
if
Maybe
I,
maybe they don't come and spray paint your thing in Times Square, but all they got to do is do some third party wrap around, and it's like, okay, we're not gonna, you do that in the U.S. We're just gonna take you out of the only place you have a foothold.
right. No, I'm glad you mentioned that. How important, for businesses are mailing lists. Like it is absolutely imperative. And you're right. If at any point you can lose your Facebook audience, at any point, Facebook can change the reach. And you've seen this like over the past few years, like used to when I would make a post on my, on my business page, everybody that followed my business page saw it. Now it's just like this much. And if not, if you're not boosting your post, like your reach is just murdered. But whenever you have your email list, whenever you have a phone list and stuff like that, like phone numbers, like that's power because it gives you the ability to always connect with your customer. So I agree with you 100%, man. Like having a mailing list is absolutely critical if you want to succeed in digital marketing.
Yeah, and like you were saying earlier, actually serve the customer. Facebook, LinkedIn, they're all well and good and everything, but you want to really grow business and have profit, actually serve the customer, call them, pick up the phone, send them a letter. Utilize the digital, but take it off of that. And you've been giving great answers so far. Can't wait for what you have in the second half. We're going to thank the sponsor and come back for the
Awesome.
imperfect action round. All right, we are back with the imperfect action round. Dan, are you ready to take imperfect action?
I love taking imperfect action. It's my favorite kind of action to take, man.
All right, first question. What is the fastest path to the cash?
Fastest path to the cash. I mean, for us, honestly, it's finding a brand that is underrepresented on Amazon and being able to develop a connection with them every single time.
So, what I'm hearing is relationships. Build
Yep,
relationships with the right people in your business.
yep, 100%.
Number two, what is the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way they can fix it?
They are more concerned with making money than serving their client. Like for me, it's always been if I do a great job serving my client, I make money because of that. And I end up with happier clients who refer me to other people or um, talk about me to other prospects. Like that's the point. So for us, we've always been serve first, make money as a result of that. I think a lot of people have it backwards.
Excellent answer. Number three, what is the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
I mean, generically, it's by continuing to serve them. But honestly, it's by finding out what your customers need help with and then being able to give them that. Like ultimately, so what we've done in with the wholesale formula is we have laid out the perfect model for creating our business to that point. But there are other aspects where where customers can be better served or they get to that point and it's like, how do I grow from here? And it's our job to be able to find those things, find those tools, find that content or whatever it is that helps them get to the next step. And that's for me, that's how I increase LTV is by finding out what my customers need.
Excellent. What are you mentioned one book? What is another one you'd recommend to expert authority world?
Oh my gosh, I got a lot. Like my favorite one, I think my favorite one of all time, and I talk about it a lot, is From Good to Great by Jim Collins. And it talks about staying in your lane and trying to be the best at what you do. So what I've kind of learned in life is there's an abundance of opportunity, right? Like if if I wasn't going to make money this way, I would be making money some other way. Like I'm a creative guy, I'm a smart guy. Like I would have always figured it out. But if I want to be amazing, and if I want to create a lasting impression, I have to focus and double down on the thing that allows me to continue to serve people the best. And that for us, that really is the wholesale formula. Like it's been life changing for so many people that it, our goal is to just grow it. Like we want to continue to be able to change more lives, and that means making better content. That means always looking for holes and trying to make it the best that it can possibly be.
Love your vision and mission behind it. That's awesome. Where can people learn more?
Oh, awesome. Well, actually, we created a just kind of a special download for people that follow you. And it's go to the wholesaleformula.com/showtime. And what this is it's a walkthrough that goes over what our business model is, and it kind of gives you that top down 30,000 foot overview. Because I realize when most people say wholesale, like it doesn't really mean anything, right? Like it's just business to business stuff, but it doesn't mean anything. In that document, we kind of walk you through that, like how you buy from manufacturers, how you sell the product, and then so you can understand the business model.
Well, thanks for making that available. It sounds good.
Absolutely, man.
I have loved what you've shared. I've gotten a lot out of it myself and can't wait to connect with you even further. Thank you for sharing with Expert Authority World, and you've been great.
Awesome, Mario. Thanks, man, for having me on. Like I said, it's a pleasure to speak to you. It's a pleasure to speak to your audience, and hopefully, something I said resonates with somebody out there somewhere, man.
Definitely did with me. Definitely did with me. So thank you again, Expert Authority World. We have another great episode. We'll see you on tomorrow's. Have a great day, and God bless.